Successful people don't have clear paths. They have clear decisions. They decide to act even when the picture is blurry, even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. That's ownership. It's choosing responsibility over comfort, action over explanation, progress over excuses. Most people want change without discomfort. They want results without pressure. Growth without risk. But ownership doesn't work that way. Ownership is uncomfortable. It asks you to look in the mirror instead of pointing outward. It asks you to admit you could do more, learn more, be more. Not later. Now? That's why most people avoid it, because ownership removes hiding places. You can't hide behind circumstances anymore. You can't hide behind your past. You can't hide behind other people's choices. And that's scary, but it's also powerful. Because once you accept full ownership, you stop feeling like a victim of your life. You become the driver, even on bad days, even when things go wrong, even when progress feels slow. Ownership doesn't mean everything works out. It means you don't quit when it doesn't. It means asking, what's the lesson here? Instead of, why does this keep happening to me? That shift changes how you carry yourself. Your posture changes. Your voice changes. Your decisions change. People feel it. Opportunities respond to it. Momentum begins quietly. One better choice. One honest conversation. One step you didn't feel ready for. And then another. Ownership builds trust in yourself. Every time you do what you said you would do, you prove something. You prove you're reliable. You prove you're capable. You prove you're growing. That's how confidence is built. Not through hype. Not through affirmations. Through follow-through. So when life gets hard, and it will, ownership becomes your anchor. You don't panic. You don't collapse. You adapt. Because you know this truth, you may not control everything that happens, but you control how you respond, and that's enough. That's where strength lives. So don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for clarity. Don't wait for things to get easier. They won't. Instead, take ownership of your time, of your habits, of your effort. Because the moment you fully step into ownership, your life stops feeling like something that's happening to you and starts feeling like something you're deliberately building. One decision at a time. The second life rule that actually works is this. Standards are the line you refuse to cross. Not when people are watching, not when it's convenient, but when no one would ever know, especially then. Because that's where character lives, in the private moments, in the small decisions, and what you do when there's an easier option. Most people think change comes from intensity, a burst of effort, a surge of emotion, a dramatic wake-up call. It doesn't. It comes from non-negotiables, from deciding, this is how I operate now. No hype, no countdown, no perfect conditions. Just a quiet shift in what you tolerate. High standards don't mean perfection. They mean honesty. You stop lying to yourself about why you're stuck. You stop blaming timing, luck, or other people. You stop calling avoidance self-care. You tell the truth, and the truth demands action. Raising your standards feels heavy at first, because you're carrying years of excuses, years of habits that no longer fit, years of comfort that cost you growth. Letting that go is uncomfortable. But staying the same is heavier. Every level of life has a cost. Low standards cost you your potential. High standards cost you your comfort. You choose which bill you're willing to pay. This is where most people hesitate. They wait for confidence to act. They wait to feel ready. They wait for clarity. But clarity comes from action. Confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself. You don't become disciplined and then act. You act. And discipline is built rep by rep. One workout you didn't skip, one boundary you didn't soften, one hard conversation you didn't avoid. That's how standards lock in. And once they do, your self-image changes. You start trusting yourself. You start respecting yourself. You stop needing external validation. Because you know who you are based on what you do. Not what you intend, not what you post, not what you talk about. What do you do? This is why standards are powerful. They turn effort into identity. They turn discipline into default. They turn growth into something automatic. No drama. No motivation speeches. No constant self-negotiation. Just alignment. And alignment is unstoppable. So don't ask for an easier path. Ask for higher standards. Aim for a higher baseline. Because the moment your standards change, everything else eventually has to. Your habits, your results, your circle, your future, not overnight, but without fail. This is the third life rule that actually works. Your state is the lens. It colors everything you see, every decision you make, every problem you face. Change the lens, and the entire world looks different. Most people underestimate this. They think success comes from better plans, better opportunities. But none of that works if the person using them is depleted. A sharp mind in a low energy state still makes poor choices. A big opportunity in a chaotic state still gets wasted. State always comes first. That's why discipline starts before discipline, before goals, before habits, before strategy. You can't outplan a bad state. This is where mornings matter. Not because of productivity hacks, but because the first hour trains your nervous system. Rush first thing, and your body learns panic. Scroll first thing, and your mind learns distraction. Move first, and your body learns power. Breathe first, and your nervous system learns control. You're teaching yourself how to exist before the world asks anything of you. And that lesson carries all day. State isn't just physical. It's mental. It's emotional. It's internal posture. How you talk to yourself sets the tone. If your inner voice is rushed, your actions will be sloppy. If your inner voice is harsh, your energy will collapse. If your inner voice is calm and direct, your actions become precise. High performers don't hype themselves up. They ground themselves. They slow their breathing. They simplify their focus. They narrow their attention to what matters now. Overwhelm comes from having too many open loops. State mastery closes loops. One task, one breath, one action at a time. That's control. And control creates confidence, not fake confidence. Not loud confidence, quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need reassurance, the kind that doesn't panic under pressure, the kind that stays steady when things go wrong. This is why stress tolerance is a skill. It's trained, just like strength, just like endurance. You don't rise to the occasion in stressful moments. You default to state training. If chaos is your norm, pressure breaks you. If calm is your normal, pressure sharpens you. That's the difference. Mastering your state doesn't mean avoiding stress. It means recovering fast. Resetting instead of spiraling. Refocusing instead of reacting. Responding instead of exploding. A deep breath instead of a snap decision. A pause instead of a spiral. A reset instead of a ruined day. Most days aren't destroyed by one big problem. They're destroyed by one unmanaged emotion. And once your state slips, everything after it suffers. That's why awareness is power. Notice when your shoulders tighten. Notice when your breath shortens. Notice when your thoughts speed up. That's the signal. Not to quit, not to complain, to regulate. Shift your body. Change your posture. Slow your breathing. Clean your environment. Refocus your attention. Small shifts. Immediate impact. This is how momentum is protected. Because momentum isn't built by doing more. It's built by staying aligned. When your state is aligned, you don't need force. You move naturally. You decide clearly. You act deliberately. And over time, these compounds, better days, better weeks, better decisions under pressure. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger on the inside. So don't ask, how do I control my life? Ask, how do I control my state? Because when you master that, no day owns you. No moment defines you. No setback breaks you. You stay present, you stay powerful, you stay intentional. And from that state, everything else becomes possible. This is the fourth life rule that actually works. Comfort is subtle. It disguises itself as logic, as patience, as being realistic. It says now isn't the right time. You should wait until you're more prepared. Don't rock the boat. And if you listen long enough, you start calling fear wisdom. Comfort loves routines that don't challenge you, schedules that don't stretch you, relationships that don't ask anything of you. It builds a life that feels stable, but slowly shrinks. Not all at once, piece by piece. One dream delayed, one risk avoided, one honest truth left unsaid, until one day you realize you've been busy surviving instead of building. Growth interrupts that pattern. Growth asks for honesty. It asks for effort. It asks you to trade certainty for possibility. And that trade feels unsafe. Your body resists. Your mind looks for exits. Your confidence disappears. That's normal. Discomfort isn't a sign you're wrong. It's a sign you're early. Every level of growth feels clumsy at first. Your first workout feels weak. Your first boundary feels rude. Your first attempt feels messy. But repetition turns discomfort into capability. What once felt heavy becomes familiar. What once felt scary becomes routine. And suddenly, the comfort you once protected feels too small. This is how people outgrow their old lives. Not with a dramatic leap, but with small, brave choices made consistently. Choosing the harder workout. Choosing the honest conversation. Choosing the first imperfect step again and again. Momentum doesn't come from confidence. It comes from evidence. Evidence that you showed up. Evidence that you survived. Evidence that you're stronger than you thought. That evidence rewires how you see yourself. You stop asking, can I do this? And start saying, I handle hard things. That identity changes everything. Comfort keeps your identity small. Growth expands it. And once your identity expands, there's no going back. You can't unsee what you're capable of. You can't forget the standard you've touched. That's why growth feels irreversible. It changes your tolerance, your expectations, your baseline. You no longer settle for what once felt acceptable. Not because you're ungrateful, but because you've evolved. So if your life feels tight, if something feels misaligned, if comfort feels suffocating, that's not a warning. That's an invitation to step forward, to choose courage over convenience, to trade ease for expansion. You don't need certainty. You need movement. Because comfort doesn't ruin your life loudly, it erodes it quietly. And the moment you choose growth, even in the smallest way, you begin building a life that actually feels like yours. This is the fifth life rule that actually works. Drift is comfortable. There's no decision to make, no risk to take, no responsibility to own. You just keep going. Following routines you never questioned. Living by expectations you never agreed to. Solving problems that aren't even yours. Drift doesn't feel dangerous, it feels normal. That's why it works. Days blur together. Weeks pass unnoticed. Years disappear quietly. Not because you failed, but because you never stopped to choose. Intentional people interrupt the drift. They create space between stimulus and response. Between obligation and choice. Between motion and meaning. That space is where power lives. Most people are afraid of stillness. Silence exposes misalignment. Pausing reveals dissatisfaction. Reflection forces honesty, so they stay busy. But busyness is often avoidance in disguise. Designing your life requires courage. Courage to admit something isn't working. Courage to disappoint others. Courage to change direction before things break. And yes, that means letting go. Letting go of outdated goals. Letting go of roles you've outgrown. Letting go of the version of yourself that fit a life you no longer want. That's not failure, that's evolution. A designed life isn't rigid, it's responsive. You set direction, then adjust as you learn. You test, you refine, you recommit over and over. This is why clarity beats motivation. Motivation fades. Clarity pulls you forward. When you know what matters, decisions simplify. You stop overthinking. You stop people-pleasing. You stop saying yes out of habit. Your calendar becomes a reflection of your values. Your energy becomes more focused. Your days feel intentional even when they're full. This is where boundaries are born, not as walls, but as filters. What belongs gets in, what doesn't get released, and with every boundary you keep, self-trust grows. You prove to yourself that your time matters, that your energy is worth protecting, that your life deserves design, that proof compounds. You move with less friction. You waste less effort. You feel less resentment because you're no longer living on default. You're living on purpose. And purpose changes how effort feels. Hard work feels meaningful. Sacrifice feels chosen. Challenges feel aligned. Not easier, but worth it. This is the difference between a busy life and a full one. A busy life drains you. A full life strengthens you. One reacts, the other responds. One is shaped by circumstance. The other is shaped by intention. So if something feels off, don't ignore it. That discomfort isn't random, it's feedback.